Good evening. I hope you are staying well during this very interesting time. It is my honor to participate in the webinar tonight with such a wonderful cast of guests. I also wanted to show appreciation to Sean McKinley and his amazing team and how they have provided us with excellent resources and information to navigate the pandemic of 2020. His forward leadership and support to the regional directors and local children's ministers has allowed us to ensure to provide safe ministry to our children. You guys are a wonderful resource to us, and we love and appreciate you. I wanted to share with you tonight on some things that we need to put in place to ensure we're providing a safe ministry environment for our children. If you have a new family who visits your local church this week, they are looking to answer 3 questions. Number 1, can I make a friend here? Number 2, can I be used in ministry? And number 3, and probably most important to what we'll be talking about tonight, is there an effective children's ministry? With the COVID-19 and the pandemic, it has been more important than ever before to ensure that we are providing a safe, sanitized, and secure environment for our children. It is important that our parents have trust and faith in what we have put in place to allow their children to enter our ministries. Recently, I took a trip to the Grand Canyon. My niece, this was her senior year, and this was actually her senior trip. As we boarded the Southwest plane, I was very impressed with their forward messaging of safety. They had not sold out the middle seat. They kept it vacant to ensure social distancing practices could be in place. And as we got onto the plane, actual Southwest employees had antibacterial wipes, and they were wiping down every surface. I quickly became comfortable and knew that I had made the right choice. On who was going to safely meet my travel needs. And we must have the same forward messaging in regards to our safety and our protocols that we have in place. Our parents must witness us putting into action the safety protocols that we have put in place for our children. Tonight, as we do our webinar, we're going to focus on preparation, consistency, supervision, and follow-through to ensure that our parents and our children know that safety is at the forefront of our minds. So with preparation, it's important to have in writing our best practices and policies and procedures. This would allow that when a new family comes to visit, that we would be able to provide those policies and procedures to parents to show that this is what our volunteers have been trained in and that this is what they can expect from our ministry. With everything that's going on, we need to ensure there is a policy with children's ministry, basic and wellness policy. We need to be very clear on what is our policy on children and what symptoms they've had within the last 24 hours. If they've had a fever over 100.4 degrees, what would happen if the child become ill while they were in our ministry? On the CGP Kids website, you can actually find a children's ministry basic health and wellness policy. Now, I am a person that believes there is no need to reinvent the wheel. This policy has already been developed and is a great resource for you to pull off the website after tonight's webinar and make any changes that you would like to meet the individualized needs of your ministry. Along with that, I hope you will look also for the Children's Ministry Cleaning Checklist, where it allows you to know the things that need to be done weekly to sanitize your children's ministry area, things that need to be done monthly, and then quarterly. It also allows that the person that is responsible for that cleaning to initial that it has been done so that you have in your records proof of what has been done to ensure that we are keeping a sanitized children's ministry environment. It's also very important that we have a structured and a consistent sign-in and sign-out policy. The number one kidnapper of children is the non-custodial parent. And as you know, more and more, we are having different custody battles, and it's very important to have an information sheet on each of your children to know who has custody and who has permission to pick up the child. This can be done through various computer programs that are out there, but also can be done with pen and paper, where you sign in the children when they are dropped off, and then you sign out who has picked up the child. This allows you to know that while the children are in your care, that you are 100% responsible for their safety and well-being. Once they are signed out, then that responsibility falls to who they have been released to. It's also important for our families to know what would we do in case of an emergency. What if there was a fire in the church? Where would the children be taken to? Where could they go and find and pick up their children? Where are the safe places that if there's a tornado, where should the children be taken? And any medical and allergy information needs to be shared on the information sheet, but also visualized in the classroom. If we have substitute teachers who maybe not be aware of the children in our ministry, it's important that any allergies be posted within the classroom in red marker so that everyone is aware of the allergies. We cannot depend on the child to share that they have an allergy. We do not want to put the responsibility on the child. We as the volunteers need to take that responsibility. Another area that we're needing to be proactive in these days and prepare for is a word that I don't think I heard before 2020, and that is with social distancing. It's very important that we are able to keep our children 6 feet apart. This can be a challenge at times for our children to understand that they can't hug and that they can't be together like they have been together before. Our children at times do not have the ability to inwardly set boundaries. So it is our job as children's ministers to ensure that the environment is able to set an appropriate boundary for them. Now, this can be done in a variety of creative ways. I've seen ministries that have done hula hoops on the floor where the child is told, this is your space, please do not leave this space while you're in the ministry. Others have used carpet squares, yoga mats. Others have used blow-up pools. There really is no right or wrong way. The key is that the children know this is my space that I need to remain in during the ministry time. It can also be done by just separating the chairs out 6 feet apart, or putting each family at a different table where they know this is my space and that I need to stay separated and social distance from my peers. Now, I am a big proponent in children's ministry of ensuring that we're engaging our children with many activities. That's important still, but we have to do that in a very different way. Any supplies that your children may need, either markers, crayons, pencils, pens, they need their own supplies. We do not need a group supply of those things where many children are using the same supplies. So it's important to ensure that each child has their own supplies to be able to participate in the activity at their station to ensure that social distancing can stay in place. Another area that we can be proactive is to ensure that each volunteer has their own file. It's a file to keep paperwork, to show what the church has done to ensure that there's process is in place to keep children safe. In this file, I recommend that you would create a form for the volunteer to sign to state that they have read the Child Youth Workers Protection Policy of the Church of God of Prophecy, that they have read it and that they agree to follow the Child Workers Protection Policy. I would also put in there a copy of any of the policies and procedures that you have in children's ministry, any best practices that you have developed, and have the volunteer to sign that they agree to follow those to ensure consistency. You also want a pastoral endorsement to show that this person has been endorsed by their local pastor to volunteer in children's ministry. You'd also want in that file to show a past background check, to show that you have been proactive to check the background of the volunteer, to ensure that there are no concerning things such as any sort of abuse or violence toward children or any violence toward adults. Those are the charges that would prohibit a person from volunteering in children's ministry. Another area that I think is important to document is any trainings that your team has participated in or your volunteer has participated in. So I think it's important that if you have your team together tonight and you are participating in this training tonight, that you would have a form in there that stated on this date you participated in a safe ministry training. And that shows that what your church has done to invest in their volunteers to create a safe working environment for the children. It is much better to be proactive than reactive. It is very important that you would be able to show that you have proactively been doing everything in your power to keep the children safe. If you came into a situation where there was a legal charge of any kind, these things are the things that you could take to court to show that you had been proactive to do everything in your power to keep the children safe in the environment that they are in your local church. Another area that's important is consistency. We must ensure that all volunteers are consistent in following the policies and procedures that we have put in place. Actually, lack of consistency causes a lot of confusion for the children, but also could open yourself up to legal situations if things arise. So as a children's ministry leader, it is important that you are holding your volunteers accountable to the protocols and the policies that you put in place. A way to do that is to have quarterly meetings where you're talking about policies and procedures, you're giving updates on anything that needs to be focused on, you're focusing on anything that maybe y'all need to put some extra focus, but this is a time to bring your children's ministry leaders together and talk about policies and procedures. I also recommend quarterly trainings. That way that you're equipping and you're enhancing the skills of your children's ministry leaders to ensure that they're able to provide effective ministry. We have a variety of ways to do trainings these days. Webinars, podcasts, in-person trainings. Your regional children's ministry leader is a great resource for you to bring in trainings. They can do trainings for you at your local church, or they can bring others in to train. But we have a variety of resources at our disposal through podcasts, webinars. When you do trainings with your local church, I recommend that you view those together. I think it's important as a team that you view the material, and then you have the opportunity afterwards to talk about how the material that was presented tonight relates directly to your church. What are the areas you're already doing well? What are some areas that might need a little bit more focus, and how that you can bring those things together to ensure that consistency is done. Another area that will ensure consistency is to have an evaluation process for your children's ministry. I recommend that every 6 months you do a survey and have your church leadership to complete the survey. I recommend having the parents of your children to complete the survey, and most importantly, the children. If you really want to know how you're doing in your ministry, the children will be the ones to tell you exactly what they're liking, what they're not liking. A great way to create this survey is through SurveyMonkey. You have the ability to set your questions. I recommend, instead of a rating scale, to use open-ended questions such as, please share the top 3 strengths of our children's ministry. Please share 3 areas that you think we need to focus on for improvement. Please share what you feel like the next step for our ministry should be. What are the spiritual gifts that we would need in order to achieve that next step for our ministry? And then you can take this information from these evaluations, and that will allow you to create a training strategy. It will allow you to say, you know what, the surveys have shown we need to put more focus on evangelism, and we need to put more focus on leading a child to Christ. So that would then focus that your next training need for your children's ministry team would be on how to lead a child to Christ. Many times, I think at times we are not as strategic and we're not as focused on how we coordinate and plan our trainings. And we want to make sure that trainings are meeting a specific need for our children's ministry teams, and also will allow us to ensure that we're making the most of our limited resources that we have at our disposal. But trainings and meetings and then evaluations are a great way to ensure that you are providing consistent ministry to your children. The next thing we want to look at in regards to safe ministry is adequate supervision for our children. The number one abuser of children are other children. Actually, other children who have been abused at times will react and act that out onto other children. For some children who are being abused, they are being told that this is the way we show love. So when they make a new friend, they want to show love to that friend. And so it's very important that we have adequate supervision, and that the children are not ever left alone and unsupervised. At the Church of God of Prophecy, through the Child Workers Protection Policy, we have a 2-adult rule for the classroom, which means that there must be 2 adults at all times in the classroom. Now, you may have one teacher, but you may have another person in your local church that would be willing to step up to be the second person. This person would help with supervision. They may help with setting up some activities, but this will allow you to have 2 adults in the classroom and adequate supervision. Another place that we need to make sure that we have appropriate protocols in place is when our children use the bathroom. We need to have bathroom protocols in place where we have an adult go in and make sure there's no one in the bathroom, and then we allow one child at a time to go in the bathroom and out. This way we ensure that they are not in there with any other adult, but also make sure that they're not in there with other kids. So we want to have these protocols in place to ensure that our children are safe. The key to safe ministry really is being proactive, consistent, having adequate supervision, and really following through with what we say we're going to do. When we have a parent who comes in and we're able to provide them with these protocols, that will do the same thing it did for me when I got on that airplane. It will provide a peace. It will provide a trust that their child is safe. However, if we do not follow through with those protocols, then we will undo what we have worked so hard to create. So it's very, very important that whatever protocols and policies and procedures that we have in place, and we're being very consistent to follow through with what we say we're going to do. So, how are you doing? What would that family leave feeling? Are they going to be able to say that you have an effective children's ministry? Are they going to feel like you have provided an environment where their child will be safe and secure? Do you have policies and procedures and best practice? Do you have training files for each of your volunteers? Do you have a specific training strategy in place? Are you providing adequate supervision for your kids? The key is to answer those questions honestly and say, where do we begin? Probably most churches are not going to be able to check off all the boxes, and that's okay. But the key is that as you're watching this tonight and as you're making notes, and as I hope that you're even watching this with your children's ministry team, that you're coming together after this webinar to say, I want to provide the safest environment for my children. God bless you. I hope I can be a resource to you anytime. My email address is kbatson77@comcast.net. If you have further questions after this webinar, I would be happy to answer them. God bless you.